It's Wednesday, December 11. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Jamaicans will see an increase of about 4% in water rates as a result of its approval of tariff increases for the National Water Commission (NWC). That's according to the Office of Utilities Regulation (OUR). The OUR is reporting that the adjustment became effective on December 9. In a statement Tuesday, OUR explained that, on average, customers paying water as well as sewage rates will see an overall increase of between 15.5% and 17.8%. The regulator further explained that most of NWC's customers do not pay for sewage. The new rates will be reflected in customers' bills starting in January. 3 of the current states of emergency, SOEs, and the 2 zones of special operations have been extended by a single month. The House of Representatives approved resolutions on Tuesday night, but not before being debated by parliamentarians.
This is not to impugn the government or the minister or the prime minister. This is just simply to say that you cannot, and it was never intended, in our view, that you can have 2 years of suspension of citizens' rights without damaging, ultimately, the foundations of our democracy.
So, Speaker, we must take value from the lessons learned from a premature ending of the state of public emergency in the beginning of 2019. As in the case with St. James, when a discontinuation of the state of public emergency on the 31st of January 2019 subsequently resulted in a resurgence of violent crime and gang activity which is currently being experienced in the parish. So, Speaker, as of 25th November 2019, the Chair Parish here have collectively recorded the following. A total of 2,335 persons were detained, of which 2,181 were released. 1,154, they might look a different number the week, might descend the end of November, have been arrested and charged by varying offences including breach of the Firearms Act, breach of the Dangerous Drug Act, breach of the Law Reform Fraudulent Transaction Act, murder 51, shooting on 56, and robbery 39. 85 firearms and 4,299 rounds of ammunition have also been recovered.
However, the extension times are not expected to affect the targeted areas, while Parliament takes its Christmas break to return in late January, as they will continue into February. The SOEs affected are the St. Andrews South Police Division, the tri-parish coverage of Hanover, St. James and Westmoreland, and the bi-parish coverage of Clarendon and St. Catherine. The government opened debates last week expecting opposition support for the 2 ZOSOs, Denham Town in Kingston and Mount Salem in St. James, to be extended by another 60 days, and the SOEs by another 90 days. The resolutions are expected to be debated on Friday by the Senate. The House of Representatives last night also agreed to temporary measures which will allow for extended periods for parties during the week and on weekends. A bill which temporarily amends the Noise Abatement Act up to January 31, when this period of adjustment ends, says the police can allow parties which currently have to end at midnight on weekdays to go on until 2 a.m. and on weekends in a new closing time from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang, who piloted the bill, noted that the changes will provide an interim solution to the issues associated with the enforcement of the Noise Abatement Act. In a follow-up report on the walkout last week, Dr. Maurice Guy, leader of opposition business in the House, was the first to attempt to set things right. He told members in Gordon House that while last week's events were regrettable, his side is committed to ensuring that Parliament works in the interest of Jamaica.
The fact is, though, Mr. Speaker, it takes 2 sides to get this House working. And the truth is, Mr. Speaker, you're, as leader of the House, was found somewhat wanting in that you should have exercised better control of the House, it would not have reached that stage. We are committed to working with this Parliament to work, Mr. Speaker. And consequently, I am just indicating to my opposite across the divide, the leader of government business, that we are in this thing together. And
his government counterpart, Carl Samuda, also gave his commitment to approach the work of Parliament with renewed focus.
Last week's events will this week be renewed in terms of our outlook and our approach to dealing with matters. And I am sure that we have it within us to be very constructive at all times in how we phrase our objections, how we present our cases, and in the hope that it will be reciprocated from the other side.
The debate over the suitability of members of the board of Edna Manley College of Visual and Performing Arts triggered the walkout. Opposition MPs became upset after Mr. Samuda refused to withdraw a comment he made about Member of Parliament for Manchester Central, Peter Bunting. Prime Minister Andrew Holness will pay an official visit to Japan from December 11 to December 14. According to the Office of Prime Minister, during his stay in Japan, Holness will have audience with Their Imperial Highnesses Crown Prince and Crown Princess Akishino. Prime Minister of Japan Shinzo Abe will also hold a meeting with Mr. Holness and host a dinner in his honor. The official working visit comes as both leaders work to further deepen the 55 years of friendly relations between Japan and Jamaica. People can now use the main road to Guava Ridge in Gordontown, St. Andrew, which was blocked by a massive landslide Tuesday afternoon. The National Works Agency, NWA, says the road has been reopened to a single lane of traffic. NWA Communication Manager Stephen Shaw says heavy-duty equipment has been deployed to the location and work is on the way to clear the road. He urged persons to exercise caution as more landslides are possible in the area. Chief Executive of Kingston Wharves, Grantley Stephenson, is retiring from that position. He has been appointed Deputy Chairman. Chief Operating Officer Mark Williams has been appointed Chief Executive Officer. Both appointments will take effect on January 6. The US dollar ended trading on Tuesday at Jamaican $134.43, up by 18 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $102.66, up from $102.03, while the British pound sterling ended trading at $176.05, up from $175.66. In regional news, the Dominica Air and Seaports Authority have rubbished the allegations from the opposition United Workers' Party that 8,000 overseas-based Dominicans were flown in to vote in last Friday's general elections. The authority says it has the figures to prove that not nearly that number of citizens flew in. The Dominica Labour Party won 18 seats and the UWP's 3 to secure a one-sided victory last week in the election polls.
Opposition leader Lennox Linton had alleged that thousands of people had arrived by charter and regular flights to participate in the December 6th general election. The UWP leader had initially claimed the party had information that 13,000 people had their flights paid for to cast votes for the DLP in the election, but he later revised the figure to 8,000.
The authorities says according to its figures, the actual amount of passengers arriving by air and sea for the period December 1 to 6 was 2,717. It dismissed the opposition numbers as fake news being circulated on social media. Police in Grenada have launched a probe in claims that passports were being sold without the consent of proper authorities. Speaking at the weekly post-cabinet press briefing, Acting Police Commissioner Edwin Martin said the claims were unsubstantiated.
Just this morning, I actually heard of that rumor being perpetuated. And as it relates to passport, what I would say is that the Office of the Immigration Department is responsible for the distribution of passports. And an unsubstantiated and scandalous remark like that can be very detrimental, not just to the force, but to the image of our country. To me, at this point in time, it is unsubstantiated. I do not have any information to suggest that. If that is something that is occurring, I will really be interested in looking into it. And the fact that that assertion has been made, I will not be waiting for persons to come to me with it. I will be going to whoever is responsible for perpetuating that kind of rumor, because there is an interest on both sides. If it's something like that is happening, it is important that it be resolved. If that sort of information is being perpetuated and is not true, it is critical that it be identified for what it is and neutralized immediately.
The Bahamas government says it is urgently seeking to raise funds in the wake of Hurricane Dorian's devastation of Grand Bahama and Tobago in September. Jasmine Brown of Guardian News Network reports.
$3.4 billion in estimated damage caused by Hurricane Dorian. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said on Tuesday that his administration is urgently seeking to raise funds to complement that $10 million it earmarked for home repairs. Minnis said the government has already prepared specific reconstruction delivery plans, which have been cross-referenced with the damage and loss assessment.
We have addressed 6 sectors: housing, the environment and debris cleanup, education, health, infrastructure, and the economy. We are hopeful that the pledging conference will attract donations to address these specific projects. For example, and quite urgently, we are seeking to raise funds to complement the government's $10 million already given for home repairs.
Minnis was addressing a press conference to announce the United Nations Development Program Pledge Conference scheduled for January 13th at Bahamas. The conference is aimed at leveraging the resources of domestic and international private sector and corporate groups. Hurricane Dorian, a Category 5 storm, made landfall in the Bahamas in early September as one of the most powerful Atlantic storms on record. Maximum sustained winds reached 185 miles an hour, with some gusts of up to 220 miles per hour. The UNDP resident representative for Jamaica says she could not say what specific amount they wanted to raise, but she did say this.
I can't really tell you in doing these pledges. You try your best to get as many people on board so that they can be able to support this. But as the Honorable Prime Minister said, you're looking at a $3.4 billion assessment. Doesn't necessarily mean that's how much it is, but that's what the assessment says. So you can imagine the enormous amount of work that has to be done.
Antonio said in the meantime, the UNDP is looking to finance some projects on the ground to empower the impacted residents.
The UNDP, in collaboration with UNICEF, plans to inject financial resources into the affected communities through a Cash for Work program that empowers those most affected.
She noted that this effort will advance the recovery efforts on those islands. Meantime, Prime Minister Minnis said given the vulnerabilities of our islands, it is imperative to develop very specific reconstruction plans.
We must be creative, we must be smart, we must be innovative. And most of all, we must be bold in how we rebuild and reconstruct Abaco, the Abaco Keys, and Grand Bahama.
On we go to sports, and we step into the boxing ring. Encouraging. That's how Jamaica Boxing Board President Stephen Jones has described the country's performance at the recent Caribbean Boxing Championships. The championship took place in Trinidad and Tobago from December 4 to December 9 and will prep our boxers for next year's Olympic qualification tournament, which is set to take place in Argentina in March. The Jamaican team walked away with 1 gold, 4 silver and 1 bronze at the 6-day championship. And Jones said they saw some very good signs going into the national championships in January and the Olympic qualifiers in March. That's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.